This year I am doing a low buy, but I don't think that's a huge surprise because I've basically been doing that for years now. Still, I want to walk you through my rules and how I set this up for myself for success and also for it to be actually fun. I think there are many different approaches to low buys and no buys and months and years and weeks and I don't know, systems, and all of them have their good sides and you should definitely pick whatever serves you. I want to walk you through my process of thinking, and I'd say the most important thing to get started with is a why. Like, why am I even doing this? This will also really help to stay consistent and not abandon the goal of doing a low buy year. So my why is very simple, but also maybe complex. It's for a good life. I am doing a low buy to have a good life. What I mean by that is that I just don't think it's going to be a good life if I'm totally into consumption, if I'm overwhelmed by the stuff I own, if I have to take care of it, if I have to declutter it. I'm also not going to have a good life if I spend all of my money on things that I don't need and just some things I might need and really enjoy. And I'm also not going to have a good life if our environment is trashed even more and climate change is accelerating even more rapidly. And so I think these are like three of the reasons why I think I'm actually going to have a better life if I just have the things I want and really need. And yeah, not actually spend a lot of my time buying things, maintaining things, decluttering things, worrying about money. Of course, worrying about money can have other reasons. So I'm not saying that a low buy will save everyone from worrying about money, but that's a different issue. So the next step I really think is totally important and very helpful is setting priorities. How do I make decisions about buying something or not buying something? And what is kind of the order of the priorities that I think about there? Again, if you think that's not useful to you, then do something else. But for me, I've set up these three categories of priorities. So the first priority when I'm thinking about buying something or not is I want to have everything I need. If I really need something, if buying that thing makes me have everything I need, and before that I'm at a loss, I'm missing something, then I can buy it. But on the other hand, of course, if I already have everything I need, then that priority does not matter, or it doesn't help me there with wanting to buy the thing because I already have everything I need. First priority, having everything I need. Second priority is minimalism and sustainability. So if I think about buying something, I want to take into account if the thing I want to buy or if what I'm thinking I want to do is actually going to be sustainable and minimalist. So these two I group together because I just can't decide which one is more important. On a personal level, minimalism makes my life easier in so many ways, so I don't want to accumulate a lot of stuff. But then sometimes sustainable solution, or I don't know, keeping something I already have that is not completely perfect, is just way more sustainable, and therefore I would maybe decide for the sustainability priority instead of replacing it just to have it a slight bit more minimal. So I hope you understand what I mean, but that's like the second priority. And then the third priority is actually just the saved money. So as you can see, people go into a low buy or a no buy year or period, whatever, for different reasons. And for many, I think it's saving money. As you can see, for me, that's not the top priority because I'm fortunate enough to be in a position where that's just, where I can worry about other things. Still, I do want to save some money by not buying things I don't need. So I think I have to explain this a little bit better. So if the first priority is to have everything I need, then me thinking about purchasing something has to qualify. So if I already have everything I need, then that kind of means I can't buy it. If the second priority is minimalism, sustainability, then this has to qualify as well. And there are just a few exceptions where it would be possible to buy it even though it's not supporting a minimalist and sustainable lifestyle. And then number 3 is obviously I do that to save money. So if I feel like I'm wasting money on something I'm buying, or if it's not actually worth it and actually making my life better, then also I'm not gonna buy it. These are my 3 priorities, and I do hope that by setting up your priorities that can look completely different, It just guides you and helps you make an actual decision, also by grouping priorities and seeing which ones are more important or are actually a priority compared to, I don't know, other things. For example, on this list, there's no like time saving or making my style better or things like that. And so if I want to buy something for these reasons, then I might really want to think about, because that's not even one of my priorities of my low buy year. But now let's continue to the actual rules. How do I want to make this low buy year happening? What have I been thinking about? What I'm actually allowed to buy, and how does it work, right? So I've come up with 5 rules for myself on how I want to manage this low buy year to actually, pull through and make it a low buy year, to feel good about it, to stay true to my values, to make it happen. So the first rule might sound a bit funny. It's just to take it easy, because I've been doing a low buy kind of for many years. So this is not a drastic challenge for me, and it doesn't have to feel like it. Also, I think for a long-term successful vision, it does make sense to not do drastic stuff like crash dieting, like forbidding yourself from certain things that you're used to and that make your life better, and from just drastically changing your life and putting a ton of effort into that. Sometimes that's necessary, and sometimes it's really useful. But in my case, I just think taking it easy on making sure that I'm still enjoying life, that I don't feel too restricted by my low buy, is gonna make my life better, my low buy more successful, and me more likely to actually, stick to it and enjoy the process and do this for a longer time. Then my second rule is 1 thing per month. Maybe you have heard of this before, since I have been doing it for several years. And I think last year I actually lifted this rule, or said like, no, I don't care anymore about this 1 thing per month. But I did go back and counted the things I actually bought for myself, and it equaled out to about 1 thing per month. Kind of depending on if you count replacements or if you count stuff I buy for my business, things like that. But I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. What I want to say here, I say 1 thing per month for myself. So I'm not including my child or our household in this, since there are just other people involved and sometimes things are necessary. And of course, I'm also really trying to not buy a ton of crap for my household and my son. I still do this challenge for myself, so I'm the only person who is like actually held accountable when it comes to this 1 thing per month. Then my third rule is to not buy things impulsively. I want to realize that I want something and then wait for a bit. Either write it down, just keep it in the back of my mind, come back to it later and see if I actually still want that thing. Because a lot of times we think we absolutely definitely need something right now, and our life is not going to be a good life if we don't have it right now. But if we look back at it, even an hour later, a day later, a week later, a month later, sometimes we've forgotten about that thing. Or the other thing is that we definitely don't think it's that important anymore. So I think waiting for a bit really helps you figure out if that thing you want actually is something that's going to add value, or if it was just like hormones and in the moment you thought it would make your life better. Actually, I don't have a waiting period, a mandatory waiting period for myself, just because I feel like I do pretty well with that and it works. I still want to have a waiting period, but I definitely see that situations could come up in my life where I maybe just want to wait for a few hours. A lot of times I wait for a month or longer. So I just don't want to give myself a strict period, but I want to remind myself to take a step back and think about it before I actually buy something. Then the fourth rule is to always buy secondhand first. And if secondhand is absolutely not possible, then a more sustainable option. And of course, if that's absolutely not possible, then I can also buy a new thing. One exception of this secondhand first, for example, is hard drives. Just because I've seen hard drives not functioning anymore. when I bought them new. And a lot of data has been lost and could potentially be lost. So I think it's just one of these things that I can't really buy secondhand and be sure that it's gonna do the job that I need it to do. But in many other areas, and underwear, I buy underwear new. But there are sustainable options compared to hard drives where I don't really think that there are really sustainable options. But for many, many, many other things, there are secondhand options. Electronics, I often buy them secondhand. I've bought this camera secondhand and the other camera I own too. A lot of furniture, clothes. I've actually also gotten a lot of clothes for free during the past few years, just from this shed I've talked about in our neighborhood, where everyone can just bring stuff they don't need anymore and take stuff they maybe want to have. Of course, this is also a privilege. Doesn't work for everyone, doesn't work everywhere. But I just want to try to get the things that I actually bring into my life as sustainable as possible, and to not even buy them if possible. Another example for that would be library books. Most of the books I read are library books or books I get for free, and only if the book is not available in my library or secondhand, then I would buy it new. Rule number 5 is that replacements are okay. So I think during the past few years, I wasn't sure if I want to count replacements as like being okay, or if I want to count them towards the purchases that are this like one thing per month. I do think now that I'm going to exclude them from the one thing per month, just because it's very hard to see how much is actually going to be necessary. And then sometimes you need to replace a bunch of things and sometimes not. And what's really important to me here is the definition of a replacement. Because in the past, I definitely have like bought something that I just found prettier or a little bit better, and then decluttered the thing I had before. And so my rule is that replacements are okay, upgrades not really. Which means if I buy an upgrade, then that would definitely be one thing that counts. A replacement wouldn't count. Also, what I mentioned before about secondhand and free things, something I get for free does not count because we're counting the things I buy, but something I buy secondhand definitely counts, unless it's a replacement. For an upgrade to be okay, it must be like at least 50% better, and I must actually need these extra 50% that it is better to justify buying it. So the replacements that will likely come up is things like underwear, and if I don't have enough t-shirts anymore, something like that. But the replacements I would maybe want to buy is new like tech and stuff that I just want because it's a bit better, and these are not okay. So I think there it's really about being honest with yourself and not like talking yourself into, wait, but this is so much better and I totally need these differences. But, I'm doing this for myself, so I think, and since I have a lot of practice, I think it's gonna work out. So these are my 5 rules, and as you can see, I don't actually have like categories of things that I'm not allowed to buy. That's also why I'm calling it a low buy instead of a no buy. Also, one thing per month is a lot. Like, I don't think I'm gonna need one thing per month, but then also because I want this to be a sustainable thing. Now, sustainable meaning me being able to do this for a long time. I don't want to allow myself this just to not feel like anxious and overwhelmed and restricted too much. I have this one thing per month and that's plenty. And I'm counting on it not being one thing per month that I'm gonna buy. But then also, sometimes it's really hard to guess what's gonna happen. And therefore, that's my decision that has been working pretty well for me and that I'm going to continue to stick to. So as you could see, it would actually be okay inside the rules if I bought one thing per month that costs like several €1,000. This is of course not the idea. Also in the same way, experiences are not counted. So I want to focus on experiences over buying stuff. But of course, I still want to be as sustainable as possible and not spend a ridiculous amount of money on experiences. in general, I do hope that this low buy is just gonna help me stay intentional and spend the money for the things that actually add value to my life, and not waste money and not buy things that are gonna, be more stressful and that I need to declutter again and take care of, that don't actually add value to my life. So I hope this was informative, and maybe at least it was a summary of the rules I've had for many years, and maybe you know a part of them already, but I hope it was still interesting to watch this video. And if you are curious about the things that actually do come into my life each month and the things that I declutter each month, I do make a monthly in and out video that you can check out. There's a playlist. You will see them on my channel of me actually in detail, practically explaining the things that come into my life and that I do declutter. So this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I will link you another video here to check out. Also, I want to say thank you to all of my patrons. They do get an extra podcast episode every single week. So if that sounds interesting to you, you might want to check that out. And otherwise, I do hope to see you in this video or in my next one. Goodbye.